The Judicial Service Commission has found Western Cape High Court Judge Mushtak Parker guilty of gross misconduct on 2 counts, paving the way for his possible removal from the bench. The 71-year-old judge faces impeachment proceedings following a Judicial Conduct Tribunal inquiry into complaints lodged back in March of 2020 by 10 Western Cape judges. One of the charges involved Parker giving 2 contradictory versions of an incident with the former Judge President John Hlophe in his chambers on 25th of February 2019. Parker told the Commission that he made an honest mistake about the Hlophe incident and only learned of the trust issues after his appointment. The Commission rejected his explanations, finding his conduct was deliberate and constituted gross misconduct. The matter now heads to Parliament, where a 2/3 majority vote is needed for impeachment. For more on the story, we're now joined by our reporter Zoleka Qodashe. Zoleka, good to have you on the program this evening. So as we try and make sense of these developments, what exactly did the JSC or the Judicial Commission, or Judicial Service Commission, I must say, what did they find Parker guilty of?
Good evening, Nhlanhla, and good evening to the viewers. Well, as you correctly mentioned, the JSC found Parker guilty of those 2 counts, 2 complaints rather. So there was a complaint by 10 judges of the same division of the Western Cape High Court. You remember that that is the matter in which the judge is accused of what has been dubbed a cardinal sin of lying under oath by deposing of 2 contradictory affidavits. So in the first affidavit, he had mentioned, and he had actually what turned out to be heard before or testified before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal, is that he had asked another judge of the Western Cape High Court to assist in deposing that affidavit. So in that affidavit, he accused the then Judge President of the Western Cape Division of the High Court, that's Dr. John Hlophe, of assaulting him in his chambers. But then, and that, of course, has been seen to be one of the issues that has caused major divisions within the Western Cape Division or the Western Cape bench. And so that is what he was accused of. Of course, the JC team found him guilty of lying under oath and providing those contradictory statements, in which he then further said that he must have been mistaken. But you'll remember that during the proceedings before the JC team, there was also a judge who mentioned that he had actually taken a photo of the key, in which he says, he had then said rather that Judge President John Hlophe had pushed him towards the cupboard in his chambers and broke the key. And so that is one of the complaints against him. And of course, the JSC has now also found him guilty of gross misconduct, but also that there was the misappropriation of funds in a firm that he was involved with, and that when he was applying or interviewing to be a judge, he neglected to provide that information to the JSC. And so those are the 2 complaints in which the JSC has now found him to be guilty of gross misconduct.
Yeah, but Zoleka then begs the question as to why did the Commission reject Judge Parker's explanation, especially about the incident with Judge Hlophe?
Well, you remember that during the proceedings, he elected not to appear before the JC team, and also that the tribunal, or rather the JSC, found that the explanation that he gave was not tenable. And so it found that he, of course, was guilty of gross misconduct of those 2 complaints against him. But it's important to note, Nhlanhla, that there are 3 instances, according to Section 177 of the Constitution, in which a judge can be impeached. One is if they have been found guilty of gross misconduct. 2 is if they have been found guilty of or found to be grossly negligent, and 3 is if they suffer from an incapacity. So that is the realm in which the judge now finds himself in, and that is why the matter has now been referred to National Assembly Speaker Thoko Didiza for the commencement of impeachment proceedings.
And exactly what do those proceedings look like then? What is the next step, especially in Parliament, for Judge Parker's possible impeachment?
Well, for the impeachment to actually take place, there would need to be a 2/3 majority. And then the matter would then go to the president, and the president has no choice but to give effect to what has been decided in Parliament. And then he would then issue a letter to the judge saying that they are relieved of their duties and they cease to be a judge from a certain date. But what will unfold now is that when the letter goes to the National Assembly Speaker, it will also go to the chairperson of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Justice, that is Mr. Nhlanhla, and then they will decide on a date for this sitting in which the House will then discuss or vote for the impeachment of the judge. And that is what we're also currently awaiting in the matter of the Gauteng High Court Judge Nana Makubele. That matter is also, or Dinswalo Nana Makubele rather, that matter is also before the Portfolio Committee for a date to be set for the proceedings or the commencement of impeachment proceedings. So that's the process that we will see unfold from here on, Nhlanhla.
Zoleka, I must thank you for all that clarity. But before I let you go, I need to ask you this. How important is this case especially for showing how judges are indeed held accountable in this country?
Well, you remember that there have been concerns regarding the JSC as well as the Judicial Conduct Committee. So you remember that when a complaint is received by the JSC, it will then go to the Judicial Conduct Committee that will also decide whether there is a prima facie case for which the judge has to answer and whether there must be the establishment of a tribunal, which is what we've seen unfold. But there have been concerns around the pace in which all this happens, right? That the process is far too slow, and that is another issue that essentially leads to the slow process in holding judges accountable. But it is quite an important step, particularly because the act of lying under oath is seen as one that is quite serious. And so that is why the JSC has come to the conclusion that the judge is guilty of gross misconduct. Of course, this will make, after the process unfolds, and if he is found or rather impeached during that parliamentary process, he could be one of 3 judges that we see having been impeached since South Africa's constitutional democracy in Nhlanhla.
Newzroom Afrika's Zoleka Qodashe helping us make sense of these developments. Of course, as the Judicial Service Commission has indeed found Western Cape High Court Judge Mushtak Parker guilty of gross misconduct. This is for 2 counts, which effectively also then paves the way for his possible removal from the bench.